Okay, ready? Redwall. We are in part 2, chapter 21. In his fevered dreams, the young mouse wandered through dark caverns. Somewhere, a voice was calling out to him, Matthias! Matthias! Excuse me. It sounded vaguely familiar, but he had other things to do than identify the voice. He must find the sword. In the Stygian gloom, he saw the late rose. It was bathed in a pale blue light. What was that doing here in the dark netherworld? Matthias saw that all the tiny thorns on the rose stems resembled small swords. He felt he should speak to the rose. Please tell me, late rose, where will I find the sword? The topmost rose quivered. He watched it blossom before his eyes. At the center of the blooming petals was the face of Methuselah. Matthias, my friend, I can help you no more. Seek out the aid of Martin. I must go now. The face of the old gatehouse keeper faded. Slowly, his feet hardly touching the floor, Matthias traveled the long corridor. At its end were two figures. He halted by the first figure, unable to distinguish who it was, but feeling an aura of friendly kinship emanating from it. Matthias looked to the second figure. Here was something he would have never encountered before. It had neither arms nor legs. With a hissing sound, the spectral thing opened wide its mouth. Inside, there were two sharp fangs and a flickering tongue, which quivered and turned into a sword. With a cry of joy, the young mouse started running forward, only to be restrained by the phantom figure of the first apparition. Matthias was not surprised to see that it was Martin the warrior. Martin, why do you stop me from getting the sword? He asked. Martin's voice was warm and friendly. Matthias, I am that is. Stay. Beware of Asmodeus. Martin took hold of Matthias's shoulder. The young mouse tried to wrench himself free. Let me go, Martin. I fear no creature that lives. Martin tightened his hold relentlessly upon Matthias's shoulder. Pain shot through him like a red-hot lance. Martin cried out, Hold him still now! Hold him still! The agony increased. Matthias's eyes snapped open. Hold him still now! Hold him still! It was the Father Abbot. He was saying the same words as Martin had said. Brother Alf held tight to Matthias's shoulder as the abbot dug deep with a probe. He extracted a dark, pointed object, which he tossed into a bowl the cornflower was holding. Ouch! That hurt, Father, Matthias said weakly. The abbot wiped his paws upon a clean cloth. Well, my son, you are back with us at last, he said. That must have hurt. That was half of a sparrow's beak lodged in your shoulder. Matthias blinked and looked about. Hello, Cornflower. You see I got back in one piece. Oh, hello, Brother Alf. I say, is that Basil in the next bed? Hush now, Matthias, and lie still, Cornflower chided him. You're lucky to be alive. It was touch and go right through the night. Abbot Mortimer pointed at the first rays of sun streaming in through the window. Yes, but you are back now, and see, you've brought with you a magnificent June summer morning. The young mouse lay back on the crisp white pillows. Aside from a bursting headache and pain in his shoulder, it felt good to be alive. But what's Basil doing asleep in the next bed? He persisted. Oh, him, Cornflower chuckled. He says that he has an honorable war wound that requires a lot of food and rest, the old rogue. That may be, replied the abbot, but it would be churlish to begrudge Basil's request. After all, he did recapture our tapestry from Cluny. It was a very daring deed. Matthias was delighted. Martin's tapestry, back here at the Abbey? How marvelous! I'll bet old Methuselah is over the moon to have it back once more. There was a moment's silence. The abbot turned to Brother Alf and Cornflower. Please, would you leave us alone for now? I have something to tell Matthias. You may visit him tomorrow. He still needs a lot of rest." The two mice nodded understandingly and left. Half an hour later, after unfolding the sad tale of Methuselah, the abbot also took his leave. Matthias turned his face to the wall, bereft of any tears or lamentations after the stresses of the experience he had recently come through. The death of his old and valued friend left a feeling like a large leaden lump inside his chest. He curled up and tried to hide within himself. How long he lay there, racked by grief and misery, he had no way of knowing. Basil Staghair awakened and called across. "Whoa! Well, bless me medals if it ain't young Matthias. How are you, laddie buck?" Matthias replied in a soft, small, sad voice. "Please, Basil, leave me alone. I've lost Methuselah. I don't want to speak to anyone." Basil hopped nimbly across and perched on Matthias's bed. "There, there, young fellow, my lad. Don't you think I know how you feel? Good grief, an old campaigner like me. When I think of the chums I lost in bygone battles, good and true friends they were, but I taught myself to keep a stiff upper whisker, you know." Matthias remained with his back turned upon the hare. "But you don't understand, Basil." The soldierly hare snorted. He grabbed Matthias and turned him over so that they were face to face. "Don't understand? I'll tell you what I don't understand, young chip. I don't understand how a chappie like yourself, who is supposed to be a great warrior, can lie there moping. You're like an old lady otter who's just lost a fish. If old Methuselah were here now, he'd chuck a jug of water over you and turf you right out of the bed on your fat little head." Matthias sat up and sniffed. "Do you think so, Basil?" The hare slapped his injured leg, winced, and then laughed aloud. "Think so? I know so. Do you imagine that old mouse sacrificed his life so that you could lie about feeling sorry for yourself all day? Ha! He'd have told you himself. That's not the way of a warrior. Get up, sir. Stir yourself. Make Methuselah proud of you." Matthias's eyes gleamed with a new determination. "By golly, you're right, Basil. That's exactly what my old friend would have wanted. I'm sorry. You must think I've behaved like a dreadful young fool." The hare's ears flopped comically as he shook his head. "Not at all, my dear feller. Think nothing of it. I must confess that I was a bit like you when I was a leveret, you know. Now, what do you say we get about the business of living properly again? I say I'm positively famished. What about you?" Matthias could not help laughing at the irrepressible hare. "Well, I am a bit peckish, now that you come to mention it." "Capital!" cried Basil. "I could eat a stag, antlers and all. I say, they do wonderful nosebag for us wounded heroes, you know. Just watch this, my lad." The hare tinkled the small brass bell on the bedside table. Within seconds, Friar Hugo and Cornflower appeared. "Ah, yes, the catering staff," said Basil. "The other injured warrior here and myself would be greatly obliged for a little sustenance. Nothing too grand, you know. Just something for our poor wounded teeth to nibble on. Gotta keep body and fur together. What?" Cornflower was pleased to see Matthias looking so much better. She exchanged winks with him and Friar Hugo. The fat friar bowed in a servile manner as he answered the hare. "Very good, Mr. Stag, sir. 2 bowls of gruel coming up." Matthias and Cornflower struggled not to laugh aloud. Basil exploded. "Gruel! What the devil do you mean by gruel? What sort of slop is that to give renowned warriors, eh? We want to be cured, not killed. Now listen to me, you pair of scullery fusilers. I want a decent brunch. Half a dozen boiled eggs, some crisp summer salad, 2 loaves of hot bread, 2 hazelnut cream junkets, 2, no, better make it 4 oven-baked apples pies. Oh, and chuck in some of those medium-sized quince tarts if you see any laying about. Well, don't stand there with your great jaw flapping. Cut along now, quick as you like." Cornflower curtsied with mock solemnity. Friar Hugo held up a paw. "You forgot the October nut brown ale, sir." Basil thumped the bed. Good Lord, so I did. Just 4 flagons. Thank you, my good mouse. Cornflower and Friar Hugo exited, leaning upon each other, their faces crimson with suppressed laughter. Strange creatures, Basil mused. Blowed if I can see anything funny about a couple of heroes wanting to be fed so that they can stay alive. Takes all kinds to make a world, young feller, other ranks included. Later, as they made a hearty meal, Matthias set about pumping the hare for information. Basil, what's a viper? A viper? Well, it's an old poison teeth worm, an adder. Never had a lot of truck with the slimy fellers myself. You'd do best to stay away from them, old chum. Matthias continued probing the hare's knowledge. Are there any adders around the mossflower region, Basil? I mean, if there were, then you'd expect to be the very creature that knows about them, being an expert and all that. Basil puffed out his narrow chest as he absent-mindedly ate one of Matthias's quince tart. Adders in mossflower? No, let me see. I don't suppose there are nowadays. There was talk of one a long time back, but I shouldn't think he's around anymore. Filthy reptiles, adders, nothing like stags. Now, what the devil was that adder chap's name? No, I can't remember it for the life of me. Could it be Asmodeus? Matthias inquired innocently. Basil's stag hair dropped a half-eaten apple pie on the bedside table. He was suddenly very serious. Asmodeus? Where did you hear that name? A little bird told me, Matthias replied. Basil retrieved his apple pie. He munched thoughtfully. You're sparrows, eh? Savage little Wallace. No discipline, of course. Darn good fighters, though. But tell me, what do jolly old sparrows know about Asmodeus? It all has to do with Martin's sword, Matthias explained. You see, one of their kings stole the sword from the north point of the vane on the abbey roof. That was many years ago. From there, the sword has been passed down through sparrow kings until it came into the claws of the late King Bull Sparrow. Not the silly ass who managed to get himself drowned yesterday, said Basil through a mouthful of hazelnut junket. The same one, Matthias replied. But to cut a long story short, the adder stole the sword from him. That's why I want to know about Asmodeus, you see. Play with fire, you'll get yourself burned, warned the hare. But Matthias knew Basil could be manipulated. He was insistent. Oh, please, Basil, you must tell me all you know. It was Methuselah's life work to try and find that sword. I must continue for his sake. The hare gnawed thoughtfully on some bread and salad. Well, if you put it that way, young fellow, anything I can do to help you, I will. You'll need a good guide. Matthias interrupted. I must find the sword by myself, Basil. Just tell me all you know about the adder called Asmodeus. The hare lay back on his bed. He drew a long draught of October ale before answering. Quite frankly, old chap, I know nothing about the bally snake. I thought the blighter had died years ago. Matthias groaned aloud, but Basil cut him short. Mind you, having said that, I think I have a pretty fair idea who will know. Listen, if you strike out northeast across Mossflower Wood, you'll find a deserted farmhouse beyond the far edge. Now, the chap you want to see is a whopping great snowy owl that patrols between the fringes of the wood and the old sandstone quarry. His name is Captain Snow. Bear in mind, though, he'll eat you on sight if he gets the chance. Military bird, but a real bounder. Then how do I get to talk with him? Said Matthias abruptly. Temper, temper, my lad, Basil chuckled. Reaching down to his bedside locker, he dug out his dress tunic. It was covered in medals and decorations from 100 campaigns. The hare selected a medal. Detaching it from the jacket, he tossed it across to Matthias. Here, catch. That's a medal, don't you know? Captain Snow gave it to me for saving his life. You saved the owl's life? Said Matthias. I should say I did, Basil laughed at the memory. feathery old fool went to sleep in a rotten dead tree, got blown down in a gale, and trapped the blighter underneath. He'd have died if I hadn't come along, dug under the thing, and pulled him out. Popped out like a shuttlecock under a door. Fellow officer, you understand? Couldn't leave him there to get flattened. His face is flat enough as it is. So all I do is show him this medal? Asked the young mouse. Basil laughed at his friend's naivety. Yes, that's all, but if you don't want to be scoffed, make sure he sees the medal before he sees you. Tell the old buffer that Basil Staghair sent you. And mind your manners. Make sure you call him by his proper rank, Captain. Oh, and I'd like that medal back sometime. Spoils the look of me #1 dress tunic, missing decorations. Matthias studied the medal. It was a silver cross embellished with a spreading winged mouth. Sorry, my nose is itching. It was a silver cross embellished with a spread winged owl. The ribbon was of faded white silk. Though it was old, it shone bright in the sunlight. Thank you, Basil, he said. I'll see you get it back. Is there anything else I should know? Not much. Just remember what I said, old chap. This Captain Snow is a night hunter, by the way. He probably sleeps in some old tree all day with one eye open. You mark my words, laddie, old Snow doesn't miss a thing. He knows all the creatures in his territory, where they live, what trails they use, and so on. Ha! They don't call owls wise for nothing. Bit of a duffer all the same, letting a tree fall on him. Keep your eye on him, though. If he catches you napping, he'll chomp you up, metal and all. Basil finished his ale and yawned. Now get some sleep, Matthias. I'm fagged out after that snack. My old honorable war wound is beginning to play me up. I must have a bit of a snooze. With that, Basil closed his eyes. He was soon snoring gently, and Matthias realized there was no more to be said, so he decided to have a rest too. Basil Staghair. What an amazing old campaigner, the young mouse thought as he drifted off to sleep. Shortly after 12 o'clock, Matthias awakened. The noontime sunlight flooded the room. Basil was flat on his back, snoring stentoriously. Although his shoulder still throbbed, Matthias felt fit and refreshed, well enough to travel. He knew, however, that he must act with stealth and secrecy. If the abbot or Cornflower or any of his friends knew of his scheme, he would have no chance at all. They would make certain he was confined to bed until further notice. Quietly, he arose and dressed himself, hanging his sandals around his neck by their thongs. Taking a clean pillow slip, he stocked it with the remainder of the food from the table. Someone had thoughtfully placed his dagger in the bedside locker. It must have been found on the floor of the great hall. Searching around, Matthias came upon a good stout pole, probably used as a window or curtain opener. He decided it would come in handy. Carefully, he inched the door open, closing it again swiftly as the abbot and Brother Alf padded by. Matthias listened to Alf's voice. I looked in on them about 10 minutes ago, Father. They're both sleeping like hibernating squirrels. It's not likely that they'll wake until evening. The footsteps receded down the passage. Matthias crept from the room and stole off in the opposite direction. He was surprised at the ease with which he left the abbey, slipping off into moss flower through the side door in the wall, where, unknownst to him, Methuselah's murderer had also passed the previous day. Alone in the woods, Matthias felt a bit wobbly upon his legs. He sat down against a beech tree until the feeling passed. Tying the pillowcase bundle to his pole, he hefted it across his good shoulder and struck off boldly through Mossflower towards the northeast. Oh, he's in hunt of Asmodeus. Let's see, I think we'll stop there for today. So next time, chapter 22. Until then.